Throughout human history, there is one boundary we have always treated as absolute, irreversible, and final: death. Once the heart stops and the breath escapes, the story is over. But in the early 1930s, a brilliant, eccentric young scientist set out to prove that death wasn't an ending. He believed it was nothing more than a temporary medical glitch, a problem that could be solved with gravity, a dose of adrenaline, and a common playground toy. His name was Dr. Robert E. Cornish, and for a brief, terrifying moment, the world thought he had actually succeeded.
To understand how things got so bizarre, you first have to understand the man. Robert Cornish was an undeniable child prodigy. He graduated from the University of California with honors at just 18 years old, and by 22, he had earned his doctorate. He was a genius, but his mind didn't dwell on ordinary science. He wanted to tackle the ultimate mystery. In 1932, Cornish became obsessed with the idea of reanimation. His theory was surprisingly logical for its time. When a person dies, the organs don't decay instantly. They fail because they run out of oxygen. If you could get the blood flowing again quickly enough and kickstart the heart, you could theoretically bring them back. To do this, he invented a machine. It wasn't a complex computer or a high-tech chamber. It was a customized teeter board, essentially a medical seesaw. He believed that by strapping a recently deceased body to this board and rocking it vigorously up and down, gravity would force the stagnant blood to circulate. At the same time, he would inject a chemical cocktail of epinephrine, commonly known as adrenaline, and powerful blood thinners directly into the patient's veins. His early human trials on victims of heart attacks and drowning failed. So Cornish realized he needed a controlled environment. He needed to test his theory on subjects he could clinically lay to rest himself. He turned to man's best friend.
Between 1934 and 1935, Cornish conducted his most infamous experiments. He took 5 dogs, clinically put them to sleep using nitrogen gas, and waited until their hearts completely stopped. He named them all Lazarus, after the biblical figure raised from the dead. The first 3 attempts failed, but with Lazarus IV and Lazarus V, something miraculous and deeply unsettling happened. After being dead for several minutes, the dogs were strapped to the teeter board, rocked back and forth, and injected with Cornish's adrenaline mixture. Slowly, the chest of Lazarus IV began to rise. A faint pulse returned. Within hours, the dog was breathing on its own. It was alive. But this wasn't a perfect resurrection. The lack of oxygen to the brain during clinical death had taken a devastating toll. The revived dogs were severely brain damaged, blind, and lacked their original personalities. They were dubbed zombie hounds by the press. Though they lived for months, eating and sleeping, they were ghosts of their former selves. Despite the horrific ethical implications, Cornish was ecstatic. He had proven that clinical death could be reversed. Now he was ready for the ultimate test. He wanted a human.
To test his theory on a human, Cornish needed a body that was freshly deceased, perfectly intact, and legally available. In 1947, he found the perfect volunteer, Thomas McMonigal, a death row inmate at San Quentin State Prison. McMonigal, facing execution in the gas chamber, wrote to Cornish and offered his body for science. If he was going to die anyway, why not let the doctor try to bring him back? Cornish eagerly petitioned the state of California, requesting that he be allowed to set up his teeter board and chemical cocktail right outside the execution chamber. He promised that if he succeeded, he could unlock the secrets to saving thousands of lives. But the state authorities panicked. They realized they were facing an unprecedented legal nightmare. The wardens and lawyers realized that if McMonigal was resurrected, he might walk away a free man under the law of double jeopardy, since he had technically already served his death sentence. If Cornish successfully brought an executed murderer back to life, what then? Could they execute him again? Did his sentence dictate he only had to suffer death, which he technically did? Fearing a legally revived murderer walking the streets, California officially denied Cornish's petition. On February 20, 1948, Thomas McMonigal was executed in the gas chamber. Cornish was banned from the prison. His dream of human resurrection shattered.
Following the San Quentin denial, Dr. Robert Cornish slowly retreated from the public eye, his career tarnished by the macabre reputation of his zombie experiments. He died in obscurity in 1963. His methods were gruesome, and his ambitions bordered on mad science. But history has a funny way of recycling wild ideas. Decades after Cornish's Seesaw stopped rocking, medicine realized he wasn't entirely wrong. The fundamental concept behind his teeterboard, manually keeping blood flowing to preserve brain function after the heart stops, is the exact foundation of modern cardiopulmonary resuscitation, or CPR. Today, emergency rooms around the world bring people back from clinical death every single day using techniques that echo the obsessed genius who tried to conquer the grave. Dr. Cornish never got to perform his ultimate experiment, but in his quest to play God, he helped us redefine the boundary between life and death forever.